Hey everybody, welcome to our Summer of Manga review video. This is Summer of Manga 2023, and we are back to review the actual entries that we had for this year. I believe in our last video we were reviewing just the basic pitches that people were sending us and giving it our thoughts. In this video, we're gonna see how all of these manga short stories turned out, and we're gonna see the wonderful artwork. And I have my list of judges here to give their thoughts and opinions on today's entries. So I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves. Eric, would you like to go first?
Sure.
All right, take it away.
Cool. So hello everyone, my name is Eric. I'm so happy to be here. Today we're going to review the short stories of this year's Summer of Manga that came out in issue 158. For those who don't know me, I'm the creator of the one-shot Aquila the Mighty that came out in last year's Summer of Manga. So this year we had a great variation of story genres and also artistic styles, which was really nice to see.
Awesome. And then next we have Eddie Fry, or is it pronounced Eddie Free?
Yeah, it's Eddie Fry, Sweet Tooth Eddie.
Eddie Fry. Okay, cool. Awesome. Now, what do you do for Saturday, Eddie?
Well, what's up, everybody? I'm Sweet Tooth Eddie. Currently, I'm working on a project I can't be too vocal about, but you'll get an announcement on what that is coming very soon. I'm pretty sure it'll be coming up in a couple months when we release it. It's something that's been in the works for a long time. I'm pretty sure fans of Saturday will know exactly what I'm talking about. It's been in the works for a while, and it'll be announced in the coming months. But I'm doing the artwork for that, handling most of the artwork for that upcoming book.
Ooh, that's exciting. Cool. All right, cool. My name is Jackie, and I work for social media and events. So I'll help kind of run the events that we have at Saturday AM, and I help do videos like these. Our last person that we have here, their name is V, and they are actually one of the people in this issue who created one of the stories. V, go ahead, take it away.
Hi, I'm V. I'm a freelance artist and mangaka, and Jacqueline said it, I managed to squeeze in for this year's Summer of Manga.
Cool. Yeah, you and all the other artists that we saw were really super talented, and I want to be honest with you. When I read this first issue, I was like super excited just to see all of your guys' stories and all of the incredible artwork. I mean, it just kind of blew my way. It blew my mind. It does every year, but this year was really cool to see. And we'll be given our thoughts here. This is our panel of judges. And let's go ahead and see what we got here. This cover, by the way, it was illustrated by V on this panel, so I think it looks beautiful. The first issue we have, or the first story that we have, is Scarlet Vagabond by V, and let me see here. I'll read the original pitch that we had, in case, because I don't think it says what the story is here. Do you want to actually explain the plot, V?
Yeah.
Since you're here.
You probably read the very first incarnation of the pitch, right? That had the bridge as the.
Yeah. It was saying something about getting to the bridge. Something about monsters too.
Yeah, a lot of this you'll probably notice got remixed into the final one, but there was like a Oni Kijo duo that were disguising themselves and kind of like terrorizing a village. It's the two main characters to take care of the problem. Austin talked to me and we kind of remixed it. It ended up being that a Yajo had taken the village's Odachi, and the area they're trying to get through this dangerous mountain pass, and the chief offers them a guide through the mountain pass if they go and retrieve the village's Odachi.
Gotcha. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I remember the story basically being having a lot to do with her and her mentor, and this kind of it almost was kind of like a little test in a way. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the artwork. As I said before, I was just kind of blown away by your guys' artwork, and the stories were really good as well. Um, yeah, yeah, and I think this was awesome. I mean, what do you guys think, Eric, Eddie? What do you guys think?
It's off. The whole thing is just such a banger. It just immediately grabs your attention. It's a great action panel. Got some perspective going on. It's like fun, stylish. It's got a little bit of like classic like shadowing and texturing to it. So that's just a real good eye catcher and just brings you into the story immediately. And then you have some awesome expressions throughout. I think that's like one of your strong points that I'm just really enjoying right now. Just skimming back through it is just the expressions
Yeah, yeah,
without even having to read it.
I agree. I agree. What do you think, Eric?
Um, so the plot of Star itself is relatively simple, which is actually a good thing for a short story. Basically, as you all said, the protagonist has to retrieve an artifact that was apparently taken by a Yajo from a person who the protagonist needs help to cross the mountain. And it kind of reminds me of Journey to the West. I think it was intentional. There are some fantastical elements which classic manga story expect. It's usually what happens, and they keep the reader engaged even though the story is simple. But for me personally, what I liked the most about this one shot was the I really like their dynamic and how well they complement each other.
Yeah, I thought the story was really fun. Artwork is amazing. One of my personal favorites, to be honest. But yeah, if you guys could have one thing, maybe to critique, or one thing maybe you would give V as like something to do next time, what would be your advice?
Um, I well, it's really a nitpick, but the nail file thing was something I understood and found cute as a solution. But I think it could have been foreshadowed better so we wouldn't feel disconnected from the rest of the story. Like in the world that seems quite ancient, the protagonist talking, the protagonist taking one out while she and the old man were camping kind of alerted me that it would be used as a and this for it's just really a nitpick, but I think for the art, I really like the use of screen tones, and but some fight scenes or rather poses felt a bit stiff for me. But nonetheless, what's a great job, and V will definitely improve even more if she keeps writing stories.
Cool, cool.
The only thing I would add in or try to critique is more background involvement. There's some enough to give you the reader like a sense of where they are and how it's like what's all going on. And there's a nice use of like splashing of water and things like that. But there's a couple scenes where the background could just hit a little bit different,
Mm-hmm.
just to kind of really put the viewer back into the space of like where that moment took place. Also, in the very last two pages, not just the last two pages, but a couple pages, it looks like it goes into the gutter a little bit. That's more of a technical thing, but
Mm.
it looks like it would go into the gutter of the book if it was printed on a book, which is fine if that's your preference and you like that and that's what you're aiming for. But it's just something to keep note of if that is something that you're going to be doing
Mm,
consistently, if that's the, like your style that you want to do.
mm-hmm.
Because when it comes to printing the books, that can get a little tricky to make sure that it stays where you want it to be and away from that gutter.
Okay.
But
I
I love the
actually
artwork. Absolutely, the expressions were just top notch.
Yeah, I didn't notice that thing with the gutter. I didn't notice that. I don't really think it's like a big issue, especially just because it's a, a lot of a lot of the artists, that it's like
No,
their
it's
first
not.
time. But yeah, yeah, yeah. That's fair though.
Yeah,
That's
but it's
fair.
just something to keep in mind.
Awesome. Okay.
Good point. Good point. Also, just to finish up, I think the font size also it's really it's big enough for printing and for smartphone as well, because I was reading the issue from my smartphone, and since the speech bubbles and the font is big enough for me to read, it was so I didn't have to try to zoom in to understand what was going on with the dialogue.
Which is always a good thing, right?
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All
Mm.
right. Cool. I hope it's not awkward, V, listening to people critique your stuff live with you on here.
No, not at all. I just didn't want to interject and interrupt anyone because I noticed that there's a little bit of a latency delay. So I didn't want to interject. I wanted to make sure that everyone got like what they wanted to say out. But it's funny that you mentioned the nail file, Eric, because in the original draft that I did the first time, they're at a village, like talking to the chief, and then there's like stocking up on supplies to go camping, and it just happens to be one of the things she charged. He gets a little grumpy about it. He's like, why are you buying that useless garbage? We don't need that crap. And that's where that first panel of her pointing out his gnarly fingernails came from.
Okay.
But Austin was the one, and this ties into what Eddie said with the very first panel or page being very eye catching. At Austin's Advision, he suggested that I redo the intro to kind of not put the conflict sort of like sooner, but just like add in some more action, something to kind of catch the reader's attention, and like something that was less, I guess, wordy and atmospheric. So that's probably why the nail file um, seems a bit strange upon further examination, is because I tried to salvage the idea, while rewriting the intro and drawing the new pages and stuff. But yeah, no, I think it's funny that you both had something to say that was directly tied to Austin's suggested change with the restructuring of the intro.
Damn, Austin.
That is
Looks like you're
interesting.
gonna lose your job.
And things when it comes to one shots, especially.
Yeah,
Yeah,
We
no,
only have such a
that's
limited
what he
amount of
was saying
pages,
as
so
well. Is he didn't think that the intro was necessarily bad, because like we both agreed that it was like flavor text, right? Like setting, atmosphere, tone. Um, but it just with 20 pages and in like a one chance event, it's like you got to work with what you got and sacrifice some nuance or like storytelling elements for the ability to but in his words, show off a little, right? Like show everyone what you can do in 20 pages.
That's
yeah.
true.
I understand. When I was writing my short story for last year's summer for manga, I had like 21 pages, and I couldn't squeeze in everything I would like to have in. So I really had to uh, cover one side of the bed with a blanket, so the other side will be exposed. So like I couldn't have everything. So I do understand as a fellow artist that you had some trouble regarding that. But I think that maybe like if I don't know if Kizaru is the type of character that would have something like this, but for making less obvious, maybe she bring along with her a big ass backpack, and she has all kind of stuff mixed in a backpack, and maybe this can tie in a bit with Sarge. Like, why did you bring all that stuff with you? Throw some of that stuff away. That's not really important. And maybe she pulls up the nail files or something like that. But regardless, it's a great debut work.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's always interesting. Thanks for sharing your guys' experiences with Summer of Manga last year, and then with your editor Austin V. It's always really interesting to hear your guys' times, what it was like. But guys, that is Scarlet Vagabond by V. If you want to vote to share your thoughts and opinions, if you liked the story, if you didn't, and why, you could vote right here in this link in the issue. But let's go ahead and let's take a look at the second story we had. This is called The Naughty List by Nick's Universe. It's actually a written short story. If you didn't already get the theme of the image here, I believe this was drawn by one of our artists, Frank. So Frank worked on Falsehoods, and he also worked on Gakaboom. And I'll go ahead and read the plot for you guys in case you kind of forgot what it was about. Let's see, and it did. I think it did change a little bit based on the first plot, just like these. But I'm still gonna read it. Um, it says, Naughty List is a manga series starring a woman named Katari who aims to get her name taken off the Naughty List, so that she was placed on due to her time as a mercenary. The runner of the North Pole, Santa himself, tries to find ways for Katari to use her skills in a less violent manner, but she refuses, saying that she would be much better suited for the role as guardian. That is when Santa gets the idea to have her train with his wife and former monster hunter Mrs. Claus in order to hone her skills as a fighter to make her well suited for the position. Once Claus feels that Katari is ready, she is given a new Christmas themed outfit as well as a candy cane rifle and is officially appointed as the North Pole's head guardian. With her new title, she and her co-workers go on many wacky adventures together to save the North Pole and the world at large from threats, all while Katari has the secondary motive of proving both to everyone around her and herself that she is capable of change. Katara recognizes that it will be a long road until she is happy with herself, but it is a road she is willing to walk in order to get her name off of the naughty list and prove that she isn't a cold-hearted killer. Yeah, this story is very much based on Christmas. So let me go ahead and give it the floor to Eric. Eric, you can tell us what your thoughts were on this short story.
All right. So about Naughty List, it's a cool concept, Christmas story with a different twist. So regarding the world building, the story introduces a cool world, uh, and there's like fantastic creatures and mysterious events that takes place, interesting environment for the plot to unfold. Uh, if I could get in some negative points, I didn't quite like the uneven pacing. The story begins with a dark and heavy setting, but the transition to the magical world of the North Pole is abrupt. Maybe a smoother transition between these elements could make the shifts less jarring. And
Gotcha.
there's in some parts dialogues that are used to provide information, like expository dialogues, which can feel a bit forced, but I do understand since you have to get your information across to the reader. Maybe finding natural ways to reveal details about the world and characters would be beneficial. And
Gotcha.
I think the introduction was a bit rushed as well. But
Okay.
if I could say my final remarks about it, the story indeed has captivating elements such as the magical world and the protagonist's journey of redemption that can engage the readers. It's an interesting story. However, some points can be fine-tuned to enhance the narrative's flow and the
Mm-hmm.
cohesion, such as like character development and smoother introduction of different aspects of the plots.
Okay. Okay. Eddie. Yeah. I guess you didn't read Naughty List, huh?
Just now while we were waiting. I kind of agree with the pacing. That could be smoothed out a little bit. I'm sure they had their reasons why. Either way, the pacing definitely could have been handled a little differently. There's also, I'm a very technical person, so I always look for those kind of. There's little technical things that could have been done. This
Mm-hmm.
is just proofreading your work a little bit, because there's some words that are pushed together that was definitely supposed to be a space there, or just other little simple things like that. I'm not sure if the writer is even English speaking or something, so that could have something tied into it. So I don't really hold any points against that. But it does help when you can do a second or third run through, just to make sure it is very readable.
Mm.
Um, Me personally, I didn't do too well in English class, and I
Gotcha.
live here, so that kind of stuff can really help a reader, is when you have those kind of like, it's just laid out and easy to read for someone. I
Mm-hmm.
love the plot though. I like anything involving Christmas. I like the idea of like a kind of darker toned Christmas with a little bit of grit to it. At the
Mm-hmm.
end, they mentioned that they saw it as a bigger series rather than just one single movie idea they had,
Mm-hmm.
and I can definitely see how this could like grow. It has a lot of flexibility for the story on where it could go, so that's pretty fun. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. I thought the story was very, very creative, and fun. And I really like how detailed they went with just kind of setting up the whole story and the narrative. She's supposed to be this mercenary, and she ends up finding herself in Christmas land, and she has to get rid of the monsters and the creatures that plague the land. I think that's such a cool idea, and I love her outfit too. I think Frank's design with the candy cane rifle and stuff, that's just icing on the cake for me. I will say the one thing that I wished I could have seen with the story is at the very end, um, when they're like about to go and like kick some butt. That's the part we're missing. So I didn't actually get to read her fighting anything at the end. I would say that's it's probably my only critique, but I enjoyed the story. I mean, what about you, V? What do you think?
Uh, I don't think I could add any critique that Eric and Eddie didn't already touch on, other than it. So I would be inclined to agree, but there are points that I'm willing to like sort of give a pass on, if that makes sense. Because like I know that every artist in this got like a hard limit of some kind, definitively, Fred to Austin to us, and doing a drawn one shot. I kind of understand what that is, more than I would with like a writing limit. So I'm not really sure, like if this person was necessarily given maybe the limit that they needed, or if they were given too little pages, or anything like that. But I think if they were well within their like page count, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then those criticisms still kind of stand, because like you said, even though we do kind of get like a very mild conflict, and I very, very mild conflict, right, between Katari and Mrs. Claus, there's not really much else that goes on, other than
Mm-hmm.
kind of, I guess, just expositing. Like it's a lot of world building and
Mm.
kind of like flavor text. It's like setting everything up, but then nothing necessarily happens. It's like you said. It's like we have the build up to like conflict would be, but then the story feels almost kind of like it's cut short. Me personally,
Mm.
I probably would have given this person another page or two, for their short story, because I feel like that could have
Yeah.
helped. Like Eric said, the pacing, right? I do really feel like the intro is very tiny. All the like flavor text and the world building is really big, and then like the lead up to the action is very tiny, and then we don't actually get the actual action part of what's to come, what's being teased.
Yeah. See, I have nothing else to add to that. But overall, I mean, it was an enjoyable story. So that was the Naughty List by Nick's Universe, and I believe just to clarify, I believe the writers were given like 5 pages about to work with for theirs, and I for you guys's, I know it was more varied for the artist. So if that helps give any context to how that works. But again, if you guys want to vote for this story, all you got to do is go to this vote button right here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the story that we got next, which is Garden by K. Rose Art.
And Garden, let's go.
I
It's a
really
clever
like
name.
this one. This one was fun. Let's go ahead and let's read the description. Uh, okay, so the plot is though his guardsman days are far behind him, Popperton remains young at heart, reliving the past through gardening. As the spring competition begins, his yard develops an unexpected weed infestation. Will this turmoil be unsoiled through his exuberant imagination, or will all his hard work become compost? I love how he added in that garden pun at the end, compost.
And it's a fun entry for sure.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
actually an in Garden stan. If you all didn't know it,
What?
I read in Garden. I was like, I'm actually in Garden fan. As soon as I read it, I was like, I need to defend this story
Oh, oh yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, for sure. Oh, this
because
this was this was a lot of fun.
so many manga fans are going to look at it.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
you guys could get kind of an image of what the art looks like. This one is actually very more leaning towards the cartoony side of things. I still feel like there's some manga esque feel to it, but it is more on the cartoony side, which I don't think is a bad thing. If anything, it just kind of emphasizes the characters' like expressions and stuff, which I think is brilliant. Like especially like these ones right here. But I love the story. I thought it was very charming. And yeah. I mean, what do you guys think?
well, um, I'm going to talk about Engarden, to be defending Engarden from hardcore manga fans. Um, so yeah, it has an unique art style and tells a great short story about the Don Popperton. I think it's what he is called. A retired soldier that now lives with his nephew. The story is adorable, and there's a lesson at the end that I believe the unique art style added charm to, making even the comedic moments and plot work really well. I really like the even though it's the art style is not very manga. It's still, as you said, Jackie, it still has some manga elements to the narrative and the storytelling, and the conclusion is so adorable. I really like this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. V, what did you think when you read this one?
Oh, I knew I was going to like this one from just the first promo post that you guys made with like just the image of of Popperton, the art style, the name pun. Like I knew this was going to be a very tongue in cheek, fun little short story, and that's pretty much what it was. Yeah, I didn't go into it with any big expectations, and everything
Mm-hmm.
comes full circle with a nice little bow at the end. So yeah, I mean, it really no complaints on my end. The only thing, like, if I had to absolutely pick something, I felt like sometimes the screen tone stuff kind of like bleeds or blends together a bit. That top right panel right there, for example, where the shading on Don is kind of like blending his figure into the background because it's
Oh.
the exact same like tone color. Just small stuff like that, but I mean, that's like a needle in a haystack. I
Mm.
really can't make any large marks against this. Very charming, very cute, very fun. Yeah, no, it great
Mm-hmm.
short story. Love and Garden.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Eddie, what did you think?
Well, this is just this is hilarious. I love this concept. I love the name. Immediately when I saw the name, I was like, "Wait, oh, it's a pun." And then I got into the first page and just all started making sense. The flow is really nice. I like the paneling too. How they broke the paneling up. Whenever he was like waking up, like the actual panels themselves started to like deteriorate and like look like all a little bit melted and stuff like that. That's pretty dope. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I actually was noticing that same thing with the toning. Um, this is just a personal preference, so this isn't really something that it can even be considered a critique. But whenever you're going to use that kind of toning, like towards the last page, there's a mix of gray that isn't toned and then some that is toned, and it kind of is a little jarring sometimes for me personally. And like I said, that's just personal taste. I don't like to. I either go all tone or I don't go any tone at all. But
Mm-hmm.
that's just totally personal taste. I like this art a lot. There are some times when it gets I like the cartoony element. I can see why some manga enthusiasts might be like, "Oh, this isn't real manga feel to it." But I grew up on cartoons, so I like Looney Tunes stuff like that, and this definitely gives that vibe of slapstick and really funny.
Yeah.
I do think they could push some of the poses a little bit on some of the more action oriented, just to really sell it. Um,
Mm.
but honestly, I overall just a very solid piece, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And this ending here is so cute. But if you guys want to go ahead and vote for In Garden, vote here. We could use as much as of your feedback as possible, so these artists know what to do for next time. So we're gonna move on. I'm gonna touch on this. It is an article that Saturday made. I believe Alexis wrote this actually. We were covering this webtoon called Vixen NYC. And Vixen NYC, I guess this is based off of a DC comic a DC character. I don't know too much about Vixen, but supposedly she has these animal superpowers. She could like turn into different animals. And I guess in summary, the story is basically her going to New York and realizing that she has these powers and just trying to live with that. She's representing diversity, and that's what we're here for. Saturday AM, and we love this webtoon. So if you guys want to check out this article, it's in here. And yeah, this webtoon does look really cool, I will say. But let's go ahead and let's see what we got on our next set of pages. Okay. We got Dream Extract by Elizabeth Richards. I love the colored art here. I think it's really nice looking. Kind of reminds me of like Sailor Moon esque, especially with the stars and the gloves and stuff. But yeah, let me read her story. A mysterious magical girl hops and skips about a warped version of a sleeping city where buildings bend and rocks lift into the sky. Although there are small monsters around, the girl effortlessly steps on and slices through a few, smiling to herself as she seamlessly dances through the night sky. Eventually, she happens upon a pile of monsters scrambling over something, and she quickly dispatches them, revealing a small bracelet sitting alone on the pavement. She picks it up and is immediately launched into the sky by a gigantic whale-like creature that emerges from the ground. It screams and accuses her of stealing this Samyan dream, prompting her to try and return the bracelet, but it's nowhere to be found. A chase ensues, and she races to a building and shatters a wall of a sleeping girl's room. She tries in vain to wake the girl Reese up as the whale closes in, until suddenly the alarm clock goes off, waking the girl. Everything about her room is completely normal, save for the oddly open window and a strange bracelet that clatters to the ground as she gets out of bed. Frantic voices are heard, seemingly from another space as she leaves her room. The tale ends as we settle on a stranger standing at a bus stop, telling the voices to quiet down and find the stolen dream or else. But the stranger's anger is cut off as they turn and smile to their friend coming down the street. Reese had hand adorned with the strange bracelet. So yeah, the actual story that we have here is different from the original plot. I think it says right here that there was a chase sequence. I I'm not too sure if there's if you would call this a chase scene in particular, because it ended very quickly. So you know, a couple things were changed, but the art is really, really like pretty. I do enjoy like the small details that they put in. The inking against the screen tone is very nice. I will say that some of these panels do look a little busy. There's like a lot happening on some of these pages, while like others, like this one that you just saw here, is a little bit more clear what was going on. What do you think of the art, Eddie?
Right off the bat, it's very eye catching. Absolutely oozing style, which I absolutely am a sucker for style. Some of the paneling is risky, and I don't mind the attempt, especially with the concept being about dreams. Like on page, what is it? That'd be page three, four. When
Mm-hmm.
they have the swooping of the swing of the weapon, that's
Mm-hmm.
a really cool way to handle that panel. It is a little risky and can, for people who don't read manga or comics much, they might get a little confused. And like you said, it could seem a little cluttered in some spots due to the stylistic choices. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think it's wrong to take that risk. Obviously, they got in summer manga, so it worked out a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
I do like some of these style things. Some of it could be toned back on certain parts. I think the main thing that could really help, criticism wise, is how they handle their words, because they throw the words along with the motion, which is a really cool idea, but just the execution is really tough to
Mm-hmm.
make it so that everybody can understand who's saying what where, and it kind of breaks that manga feel to it, and it starts to feel a little less manga by not having certain things tucked away in bubbles. But again, it's stylistic choice, so I don't really have too much of a problem with it. But I do think there could be some more, make it a little easier to read for people who aren't avid readers of comics, because it
Mm-hmm.
might be a little hard for them to pick it up immediately.
Gotcha. Well, what do you
But
think, Eric?
I do appreciate some risk taking.
Cool. Okay. Eric, what do you
Yeah.
think?
So the art is really beautiful. I like the use of contrast and the use of the in the use of the panels when the protagonist reads on the dream world. The story gave me interesting tone of mystery, but mainly I have two issues with it personally that I think it prevented me from liking the story even more. Those being the unconventional use of paneling, which is great. I really like the concept, but sometimes it can get a bit scuffed, which could be easily be fixed and improved if simpler forms of paneling were used in the real world sequence to contrast with the dream world. Since the
Mm.
dream world is a special place where the rules of physics don't apply the same. It could have this more stylistic choice. And when the girl is on the real world, maybe the paneling could be a little more concise to mirror, to kind of show how different the different worlds are one another.
Mm.
And the second point is about the conclusion or the lack thereof. The one shot didn't provide closure on the plot that was developing around the girl having the bracelet and her friend apparently being a part of the dream world. It felt more like a prologue than a complete story
Mm.
with some unanswered questions. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess it could be because of the page limits too, but maybe knowing the limit of the pages, maybe making the story simpler, because it gave me a lot of questions about
Mm-hmm.
the world and how it works, how the character, the protagonist, what is the what the character, the protagonist, what is her role in all of this, and the other character that shows up later. But I guess we will never know.
Mm. Yeah. Well, I mean, some of these stories are gonna be left kind of like with a lot of things unanswered. For someone who's new at making comics or not very experienced, like I'm just gonna throw this out there. I think it's gonna be very hard to be able to tie in all loose ends, you know, for a one shot, unless the one loose end that needed to be tied is what your one shot is about. But if you have like a lot of extra little things in the story, like how did she get the bracelet? You know, how did how was her relationship with this other character? Like how did they meet? How did she end up in this dream state. You know, there things like that are going to be hard to answer within like, you know, 5 to 10 pages. But I see where you're getting at though, Eric. What do you think, V?
Uh, I mean, yeah, I'm mostly in agreement, but I do have some, I guess, more like specific gripes. But I don't want to immediately jump into being negative. Elizabeth did her promo art, right? She did like the character cover art for the like for the cover of the one shot.
Yes, right here.
Yeah, I think that is a beautiful illustration. I'm always so envious of people's ability to paint like 1,000 colors into one image without making it look like it's cluttered. And I think that this person's art style is like, just generally speaking, it has this just like kind of cute glamour to it. It's very pretty. It's very eye catchy. And like outside of that, I am a very big stickler for page flow and contrast and readability. And like Eric and Eddie have both expressed, the pages have a lot of good core ideas to them, right? Breaking convention and so on and so forth. But I feel like in pages, especially like Whale has emerged, like there's all this text, there's all these different like screen tones and textures, and there's like all effects going on behind the text, and like it's just a lot, and it can be hard to know where to place your eyes and where the flow of the page is actually trying to direct you. I would love to see this artist really like focus up on kind of, I guess, more like the fundamentals of laying out a page properly. And then once they master those fundamentals, revisit it with these ideas, panel breaking art, the cool dream sequence stuff, and like Eddie said, the text following some of the effects. And I think the only other thing I would kind of change if I could would be sort of the bubbling. It feels very, for something called Summer of Manga, right? The bubbling does feel very Western webtoons comic, right? Like it feels very Western indie comic. The bubbling is very around the words as opposed to the words being in the bubble, with the whole Japanese to English thing. But I mean, otherwise, yeah, the lack of a seemingly solid conclusion kind of, it's one of those double-edged sword things, right, where it's like it makes me want more, which is a good thing, but I still feel like there wasn't really like a central conflict started or resolved. I feel like things kind of just happened.
Like it was basically just about the dream and about the bracelet, and we didn't really know what the conflict was exactly. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, because it seems like the conflict was very, I don't know if superficial is the right word, but it was more like there didn't seem to be any like active engagement with like a centralized conflict that the character has to like face and overcome. It was character found an item and then happened to get into a very, very, very brief, like you said, the supposed chase sequence is only like 1 page, right?
Something like that. Yeah, a couple pages.
Very brief conflict with the whale, and then it's like almost immediately over.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I love how it breaks up out of the floor and that you can see it before it emerges. The kind of like ice effect on like the street, super cool.
Yeah, that's the kind of layout and rendering that
Yeah.
trouble trying to replicate. So I do agree and firmly confirm that the art style and the art in general is the strongest point of this short story. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. Hey, you guys, just remember to vote. If you agree with what we're saying or you disagree, make sure you go vote right here for Dream Extract. Our next story we have here, it's another written story. It's called Fenrir the Hunted, and it's by Andrei Ostapenko. Ostapenko. Gotta be honest with you guys. I had a hard time understanding what this story was about. I had to read it twice just to get like a better understanding of what exactly I was reading. But let me go ahead and read the plot here. In the post-apocalyptic waste left after Ragnarok, Vidar, Odin's son, is tracking down the gargantuan wolf-like artificial death machine Fenrir to avenge his father and find some comfort in having a purpose in the ruined world. In this story, Norse gods lived in a futuristic cyberpunk world. Hence, the setting is a mixture of cyberpunk post-apocalypse, grim dark western, and Norse mythology. We will travel with Vidar on a feverish intermittent journey through anachronistic wastes. The story starts with the protagonist killing a Jotun, a cybernetically enhanced giant, and a crater-like paw print. Up ahead is a looming shadow of something colossal and terrifying cosmic horror, and yet it's Fenrir who's running away. Then Vidar will meet mad cannibalistic androids and get dazed in loneliness, crazed by the brief visions of the past, the horror of Ragnarok, the bliss of the days before, and previous encounters with Fenrir. It's an open-ended story ending right before the final fight between the hunter and the prey. I do remember reading this. I will say I like how much thought went into writing the story. Once you start reading it, you could tell right away that the writer took a lot of time to really flesh out the story. And I really like the theme of the Norse mythology combined with this like futuristic setting. I don't think that's really been done before. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think that was a creative idea. But I had a hard time understanding kind of what the story was about just because of how word heavy the dialogue was. I mean, but what do you guys think? Eric, you want to go first?
Sure. So I'm gonna point out some positive points. The main one is the atmosphere and world building. I think the story is successfully in atmospheric post-apocalyptic setting. The descriptions of the desolated world, the ash-filled sky, all the things that the world looks creates a strong sense of place. So good job on that. The protagonist Vitar, I think that's how it's pronounced, Vitar. It's portrayed with depth and complexity about his internal struggles, memories, and interactions with the illusions showcase his emotional depth. There's also some intriguing mystery. The story introduces an enigmatic world with a sense of mystery, making the reader, me as well, curious about the events that led to this state for the world to being like that, and the story of the characters. And the symbolism such as the sacrifice of Fenrir adds depth to the story, and also introduce themes of redemption, all this stuff, mainly the cyclical nature of the existence. But let's go to the negative points. This one suffers the same as Nautilus regarding the pacing and also clarity. The pacing can be uneven as well. Again, particularly in this position heavy parts, some descriptions might require more clarity, ensure a smooth understanding of the narrative. The character's motivations as well, while the protagonist's motivations are hinted at, they could be more explicitly stated to ensure a stronger emotional connection with the reader, because I didn't feel really connected. Dialogue flow and resolution, because, dialogue flow, some parts of dialogue feels disjointed and kind of lacks nature to reflect better the personality and emotions of the characters. And the conclusion of the story might benefit from further development, especially the narrative. I think more clarity on Vitar's final decision and what it implicates could in overall impressions. Interesting world, The protagonist is grappling with internal conflicts, and the deep character exploration are the major strengths of the story. So yeah.
Okay. All right. How about you, V?
As far as critiques go, I'm completely with Eric on all that, so I'm not going to recover his ground. But I will say that I really really liked the setting and the atmosphere, above all else.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they're I think it's prose, right? Could get a little wordy. I like the actual like choice of words, if that makes sense, right? It's like
Mm.
it was kind of meaty paragraphs, but the actual like word choice and the way that they strung words together, to me, anyways, painted very clear pictures in my mind. And again, like the setting and the tone, I absolutely adore it. I'm a huge sucker for cyberpunk stuff and like dark future settings. And, Norse mythology aspect to it, and not just in the sense that it's like Norse inspired, but like this like sci-fi world is very interesting to me. I don't think I've really seen anything like that before. So yeah, no, really really like the setting, and I also thought Vithar was kind of an interesting character. Like we got some glimpses of like Eric said, like deeper characterization. Just waiting to, what's the word, the phrase? I don't know, but like I feel like this had a lot of potential. Maybe if this person had a couple more pages. I know they said that they were trying to write it so that it was intentionally leading off before a big confrontation. But yeah, I would have loved to spend some more time with the protagonist.
Yeah. Okay. Do you agree, disagree, Eddie? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm not gonna top what Eric said. Golly, that was very descriptive. But
Sorry.
oh no, that's a great thing.
I'm sorry.
No, that was an awesome description. I was just enamored with your descriptive ability. That was really good. I actually really like the setting too. This character is really cool. I could see a lot of different designs in my head as I was like just listening and kind of like getting a vibe on how the writer handles stuff. I do like their words, like V was saying, like their choice of words. Some of them, I'm not gonna lie, I don't even know what they mean. But I looked it up and I was like, oh, that's cool. I never would have thought of using that word there. Deep imagination. Like they probably
Yeah.
built this world in their head every minute of the day for like serious at least couple weeks of just sitting there, and just their brain is just putting together this entire world. Because I can tell they wanted to go into depth on other subjects within this world or story that they had
Mm.
cooked. I'm not sure how fast they cooked it up, but they definitely have a very world building imagination to it. So I could definitely see them pushing that farther. They almost have like the mind of like a game developer. Like this gives me game vibes, like almost like a video game world that you just jump into and you just start playing the main character and you have to figure out their whole
Mm.
story. So kudos to that. It's very cool. There are of course a couple little things like technically like writing wise, but I'm not sure where everyone's from, and I
Mm-hmm.
expect that kind of stuff. As long as it's readable, that's all I really care about.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. I was just gonna comment on him thinking a lot about this, and I agree with you. I think he did spend a lot of time thinking about this story, but yeah, this was a very complex story. Complex isn't necessarily a bad thing. You just got to be careful how to implement it. So yeah, that is Fenrir the Hunted. If you guys want to vote for this story, all you got to do is click that button. But I think we have a couple stories left. Our next one is actually Wandering Spirits by Ida Anika. Wandering Spirits, the story follows Rover, a lonely wanderer whose kindness toward everybody other than himself makes him able to help the weak in this harsh steampunk world. He has accepted his solitude lifestyle until he meets Nymph, a girl whose high spirit and optimistic friendliness pokes at Rover's deep hidden wish for company and friendship. Together, they come across a child from the magical race who is being harassed by a government robot. The child is plagued by dark, horrifying shadows, which seems to consume his mind with pain, fears, and terrors. What are those dark shadows, and why does it seem like the government is trying to get rid of it? I do remember the dark shadows. I think it's like toward the end of this one shot. But here's the artwork. As you could see, they do use toning here and there, but it does seem pretty focused on the line art. I will say I'm not really seeing a whole lot of backgrounds. It's like the first thing I notice. But I really did like the story. I feel like it's definitely something that could be set up for a future chapter or a future series. Right here, the Shadow People, right here. And I think the main character here, I like her motive. I like her resolve. It's something I could connect to, which is good for artists to do, is be able to make characters that you relate to. But what do you think, V, of this short story?
So, like you mentioned, there's kind of a lack of backgrounds, which I'm not a Naruto. The early pages, right? There's a lot of pages where there's just kind of not background art after a setting's been established. So I'm not a huge like stickler on that, but I do feel like when the characters have moved to a new location, it's not established
Mm,
very well. But I think that this artist's use of contrast is really, really good. I think it all reads very clearly. The silhouettes are good. It's all readable. I if we were talking about some of the pages in Dream Extract being like a lot visually,
mm-hmm.
I think this artist starting out they kind of didn't have their bearings on that, but like the more they went on, like the later pages I think are really solid. They have good flow. The text isn't too small. The speech bubblers are well done. All the contrast and the toning is really good. And I also like that the main character, her name's escaping me, but I like that her motive isn't tied to the fact that she suspects one of them to be her father initially. And I know that seems like a small thing, but it does mean that like her motive to help like spirits is not personally driven. There's not like a selfish aspect to it going into the story. She's doing it like completely selflessly
Yeah.
about her character.
Yeah, and they did change their story up a bit based on their original plot, because it says right here the story follows Rover, and then we cut to the girl in the original plot. But in this new version, the girl is the main character from the very get go. So they did change some things. I will point out. But you know, it's all for the sake of having a better story and a better read. Um, but what do you think, Eddie?
Um, I like the experimenting with panels. Like I said, I'm a sucker for like stylistic choices and taking some risks here and there. When the arrow comes around the panel, that's a pretty cool shot. Could have been executed a little bit better. I think some of the paneling has some issues, definitely. That just comes with experience, though.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm not sure how much they've drawn panels or how much they've put into mastering paneling, but that's something that's like really, it just takes a while. And you wouldn't think it because it's just boxes, but it
Mm-hmm.
does take a while to get really comfortable with. I really like their composition on, I'm not sure which page it is, when she's opening the back of it and there's the two panels on each side and
Mm-hmm.
there's just that heavy contrast and the character standing in the middle.
This
That's
one
just
right
an
here.
awesome shot. There's a lot of like scenes. Yeah, that scene right there. There's a lot of scenes that are just really well done in a composition sort of mindset. Like even the one with her father through the bars, there's the upward angle to kind of give it this feeling of like how big or how like dramatic the scene is. Like there's just a lot of understanding of how to build on drama, which I think
Yeah.
is going to come in handy. I do think they need to work on their panels a little bit. I'd also suggest some gesture drawing practice just to really capture motion just a little bit better, especially with so much action in this comic immediately coming into it.
Mm-hmm.
I love some of the shots, and then some per se just like a lack of understanding gestures. So I would recommend gesture drawing. It would help a lot. Other than that, I think this is great. Like you said earlier, the connections right there immediately. That's pretty good to see in a one shot. Like especially the supporting character as well. Like it's very clear the supporting characters like roles and stuff. So I
Mm-hmm.
think they did a good job on this.
Okay. And Eric, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts, B and Eddie already said. Um, it suffers a little bit the same of the S Dream Extract about conclusion, but I think this one at least gives us some sort of uh, conclusion regarding releasing all the shadow people, and it sets up some mystery for the future regarding the protagonist's father. So it feels more like a something that, well, I need to see this story afterwards, but it still gives us some sort of conclusion in comparing Dream Extract with this one. But yeah, regarding the art, still I like the experiment with panels, like the character, the main character personality,
Mm-hmm.
and what V said regarding her needing to help out because of compassion, and afterwards seeing the that maybe it's her father, the other shadow people. So I didn't even think of that, but it's still a really good debut work. Definitely a lot to improve,
Mm-hmm.
but if you still keep at it, you surely can look up even more bangers.
Awesome. Awesome. And that's our critique for this artist.
Wandering Spirits by Ida Anika.
So, the next thing we got in this issue, we have Diversity the Sataram Way. And this article is also by Alexa Stokes. And if you guys want to get a better sense of what um, our version of diversity means in comparison to just like what people think of it in general, um, or just to get an understanding of just where our artists are coming from and the experiences we've had here working at Sataram. This is a great article to read. Has a lot of different opinions from people working at different departments in our company. So I definitely recommend reading it. We got Raymond Brown. We've got Frank, who did some of our illustrations for this issue. We've got White Manga, Jay Odin. So lots of cool people. And yeah, I think those were the only two articles. The one with the ethics in New York City, and then the diversity angle, the diversity article. But let's go ahead and let's read our next one shot we have. It's K10 Sanctuary by Alvern Ball. Oh, this one actually is it's written and drawn by a duo. So we have a writer and an artist team working on this one. I think it might be our very first one shot in Summer of Manga that's had two people working on it. I could be wrong. I mean, I've only been here for like 4 years, but this is the first time I've seen it. So let's give this a read. I'm gonna read the plot here. Keiten is a 15-year-old boy searching for his identity in a world that has forsaken science for religion. When he comes across an endangered brown bear, Keiten helps a group of animal lovers transport it to a sanctuary where he must stop a deadly hunter in order to save not only this rare brown bear from extinction, but also the last living silverback gorilla, which may be a Shimpu, a cybernetic animal transformer made for Keiten's protection in this new world. Um, I'll go ahead and let V give her thoughts first, and then I'll let you guys come up with yours. V, what do you think?
Well, I think immediately right off the bat, like everyone can agree, the art in this one is phenomenal. Like this is obviously a very seasoned artist. They know what they're doing. They've got their perspective. I think pretty much everything on the art side of things. Like the art in the panels, maybe not necessarily all of the paneling itself, but the actual like quality of the art in those panels, the way the action reads and all of that is just top notch, phenomenal. It's not muddy or anything like that. The only kind of I guess like point of contention that I have though I guess the flow of the story, the the opening and the ending specifically, I feel like this story would have been a lot stronger were it just the like what you would consider the flashback segment. When I first read through this, I wasn't entirely sure what was happening between the first two pages because of how drastic the setting change was. It was like, oh, we have this kid here, he's in the saloon, he's, you know, getting a hot sauce shot. And
Mhm.
then in the next, we're now in the past, or something like that. I feel like a transition between those two pages, or something to kind of key us into that would have made that a lot clearer. But it's just small stuff like that, or subjective parts where I think like maybe there's too much text in this bubble. It could have been shortened and the text made larger. Because something Eric mentioned earlier, you know, he was reading on mobile, really small text, and you do kind of have to zoom in to read some of it. But
Yeah.
overall, I it was a really solid entry.
Yeah, you know, when you say small text, I do see that. Like it's bigger text right here, and it just gets smaller and smaller as you read down, which I think has more to do with like the paneling, because this panel is a lot smaller than, like, let's say this one. But I see where you're getting at. Um, Eddie, what do you think?
First thing I gotta mention, I always appreciate when people can really nail hairstyles, and I'm very pleased with how they handled hairstyles here. They got like a little bit of everything. They
Mm,
handled the little kid's hairstyle just awesome. Like they did it in a way that's nice too, where it's like you can see the details on some of them, and then on the other ones, they handled it was just really nice.
yeah.
Um, some of the paneling could use some work. That just goes without saying. I think that transition that V mentioned could have been done a little bit better if they had, like, if you look at One Piece, Oda uses a lot of transitions. He never has one chapter that's focused on just one part of the story or something like that. But what he does with his paneling is he'll trick the viewer's eyes by using a panel and cutting it into sections. And it's like a nice fade away so that you know that it's coming, and he'll
Mm,
either time it so that the next page turn feels like a transition. That way, when you're turning the page, you're already feeling like you're hitting a transition. Whereas right here, they had a sky shot, and they tried to use that to transition it, but it's so small that it almost fades into the background a little bit, and you just think it's part of the background. I think that could have been used a little bit differently to help sell that. They did use the black behind the panels to try to say flashback is starting here, but if they just art alone, they could have just done some paneling tricks to really sell that transition. I like
mm,
some of the things they did with the textures. Their toning is pretty good. I really like the toning. I'm impressed they put that much toning and work into every single panel. Is phenomenal.
yeah.
And another thing is their hatching is really good, especially on the animal fur. They handled the hatching like pretty much perfectly to where they didn't have to overdo it. And that's really
Mm,
hard because some people will overdo their hatching. So kudos to the artist for that. I think the
yeah.
writing is interesting. It's a fun twist and like weird setup that I'm not used to seeing, which I like.
Mm,
Especially when I got to Mighty Magnus. That just immediately makes me like, okay, I gotta see a little bit more about that. That's kind of wild. But yeah, overall, a really good, strong entry. I love seeing some duos on some stuff too. That's dope.
yeah. I forgot to mention this, but the artist's name is Wilsa Sebarati or Sebaretti. And yeah, they're very very talented for sure. I would say probably one of the stronger ones in this group, in my opinion. But yeah, the only issue I had, like, for me reading this, and I think V might have mentioned it, but I had a little trouble with the transitioning and just keeping up with the story. I would say that was like my only like real critique on this. Maybe some of the poses are a little stiff. Like this one, yeah, he's running forward, and these guys are running forward, but it could have been improved with the posing, maybe more foreshortening, and less him just turning at an angle and running. This pose right here is nice. This one is good. Um, but yeah, I would just say maybe just those action poses were just a little too stiff. But yeah, this was a pretty decent read. What is your take on it, Edric?
I need to see more of the
Yeah.
gorilla. He sounds so cool.
You want to see more of the gorilla? Okay,
It's so cool, the gorilla.
here's the gorilla.
Yeah, yeah. The art style I agree with everyone else regarding the one where the goons are running away. There's some sequence that you can really understand for what panel you should be reading next, because how the panels are more like in a grid than in a sequence, because you're running and then maybe your eyes go below and see the character, the main protagonist saying, oh no, but you should be going back to the top of the page. So stuff like that, it's for the reader's flow, how the reader see the things that are displayed on the page are some of the things that could be improved on, but the art style is almost perfect. I really like how detailed the faces are,
Mm.
and you can tell that the artist really were waiting for the opportunity to show this story, because you can you can tell they put everything they could.
Yeah. Yeah. Great job to this writer artist duo for this one shot. That was Alvern Ball and Wilsa Severati. Yeah, so fill out that survey, guys. And let's go to the next one shot. It is called The X Division by Caleb IA. Now, the X Division is, I believe, our last written short story that we have in this issue. But I'll go ahead and read the description. Let me see. An evil spirit possesses a local gas station owner, and two black anomaly detectives of the X Division go to research the issue. With their critical analysis and piercing questions, they're able to weed out which one of the employees is the possessed one. After the spirit shows itself, it's up to the two detectives to exterminate the issue with their immense combat prowess and super abilities. Um, yeah, I mean, the description is pretty much just like the story. Like if anything was changed, it was I feel like it was very minor, but yeah. So you have these two detectives, and they're investigating this gas station because they're trying to figure out who's possessed and stuff. And I thought it was like it was fun. It was fun reading this. It was kind of like a almost like a whodunit in a way, but it was also it has some action scenes in it too, and some comedy. And I had fun reading it. I think there was like a scene where they revealed who the villain is. I think that probably could have been written a little bit better. Like, and what I mean by that is, it could have been more hinted at who the villain was and not made so obvious. Um, but I mean, I think that was like my only critique with the story. I enjoyed it. One of my favorite ones to read. Eric, what do you think?
Um, well, for X Division, actually, I was watching a YouTube video, I think this week,
Mm-hmm.
for a channel called is the author of this story right here. He
Mm-hmm.
was promoting it on Saturday AM. So
Cool.
it's really nice to see the author promoting their own work. So uh, besides that, I could I think the X Division didn't suffer as much as the others with pacing. I think the character dynamics, the banter and chemistry between Kenny and Mira created an engaging and relatable dynamic. It adds humor and depth to the story.
Mm-hmm.
Portrayed with distinct personalities, dialogue styles, and quirks, making them more memorable and likable. The world building introduced a supernatural division, that's the X division, and their work in the world where paranormal anomalies exist. And the world building provides an interesting backdrop for these events. And in the action scenes as well, the actor sequences are well written with a good balance of description and pacing, and the use of supernatural abilities and weapons adds in it. But for negative points, I think more clarity in the dialogue. Some places the rapid fire being confusing for the reader, requiring maybe some more thoughts or attention to understand the flow of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think the character introductions, while Kenny and Mira have distinctive personalities, more introduction details about them could help the readers to connect with the backgrounds and motivations a little bit better. So the overall impression, if I could give one, presents a fun and interesting story with dynamic characters and a supernatural premise. And I think I really like the action. The characters have good dynamics and humor, and I think to enhance the story, maybe providing clear dialogue and setting descriptions. So yeah, overall the story offers intriguing premise and some good narrative.
Hmm. Okay. All right. What say you, Eddie?
Start with the moisturized high top fade. That immediately had me just grinning. That was and a good taste in a coupe de ville. All right, they're just calling to me on this one. The characters are fun. I like the characters for sure. Like you just immediately know what role they fall into, which is safe but also good because you don't have to waste so much time, especially when you're limited on like trying to make a reader understand your characters. They fit the usual dynamic, which is fine. I think that's really good when you're trying to get something across really quickly. Of course, I'm sure they have more depth to them if it's expounded upon and talked about more. Some of the comedy in here is pretty funny. At certain points, I think the comedy could be like pushed a little bit more.
Hmm.
Like, where is it? Let me find it again. Comedy with the explosion. Like, that was funny. But then there's other parts where, like, or you could have, like, made that, like, built it up a little bit more to have a bigger, like, hitting point with comedy. Um, I like the action scene. The fight was pretty nice pace, got straight to the point, but like got you interested in their abilities and how they approach their and handle their fighting. Cashier, cashier, poor cashier guy. He was going through it, but yeah, it was a pretty fun story. I enjoyed it. I think the characters are the like definitely the story just focuses on the character as the highlight without getting too crazy on setting and challenge like details and mystery. Like, no, let's just make some great characters that everybody could enjoy. I think that's just hit the mark on what they were trying to do.
Truth. Appreciate. What about you, V?
So as I said before, I didn't initially get time to read this, but as we were kind of
Oh.
like transitioning between rooms, I made the time to do it, and yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with Eddie and Eric that like I think out of the written short stories, this one is probably in my opinion the most solid. I think that um, it establishes kind of like what you would want a short story to do very well. Eddie and Eric said the character Mira and Kenny both have I think very distinct but not what's the word? I guess flanderized, right? Like they're not caricatures. They're not like cartoons. I'm struggling to find the words to really describe it, but yeah, very very strong characters. I feel like you it's kind of like working a 9 to 5 with with the dusty broom on the floor. Nothing's happening, right? It's boring as hell. But if you have your friend there with you, you guys can make it fun. And I feel like those characters take this kind of plot that isn't it doesn't try to be more than it is. It's just a gas station investigation, but the two characters make it a very fun adventure. And I think that there's enough background flavor to sort of make you want to read more about like not just the flavor, right? The characters and the flavor together. It's like if there were more pages to this, I would read it like
Hmm.
instantly.
Yeah.
While also learning more about the world and how like all that works on a more nitty gritty level. Because I don't doubt that this artist probably has it figured out. Just that they acknowledge that with what they're given in summer manga, they couldn't just you know exposition over and over and get all their cool ideas out, which I respect. I think having the self-restraint to realize that you can only do so much with a short story, uh, self-restraint is a very good quality to have as an artist.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I gotta appreciate Frank's interpretation of Caleb's characters here. I think the imagining behind the designs is cool. But yeah, and I just gotta throw in I think we have a Scooby-Doo type of ghost here. Like just phrases like that is just so funny, and it's cute. Yeah, this was a fun ride. And that was the X Division by Caleb IA. If you enjoy this one shot, fill out that survey. But let's see. I think we have our last one shot in this issue. This one is The Curse That Swallowed Kamamori by Masaru Yumino. And if I'm getting the right story here, this one shot was actually called, in its original concept, Barrow of Eternity. And that eternity part, it'll make sense as you come to the end of the story. But the description goes like this, at least his original one. People say there is a strange place deep within the forest, an ancient graveyard hidden from the public where people can live out their deepest desires. One day, a group of friends decides to visit this place out of curiosity. There they manage to find a dark underground dungeon full of rooms with weird people inside who provide all kind of occult services. There are no rules other than one: the workers must stay alive. The place turns into a living hell after our protagonist, a boy, accidentally kills one of the workers during service. It turns out that the place runs by an ancient evil spirit who wants to punish the boy for this crime. As he and his friends try to find a way out of this maze-like place, they get to know the history of the place, while these cursed workers, who start to look really disturbing and creepy, and the evil spirit are trying to hunt them down. At the end, the whole group gets totally wiped out, and the workers kidnap the boy to make him pay the price for what he had done. As punishment, they are turning him into a mindless cursed worker too, like a replacement. This place will be his prison for eternity while he needs to serve the evil spirit and the visitors who are coming to this place just like him and his friends did. And with this, the cycle goes on. So when reading this, I can't quite remember if there was a punishment involved with the main character. I think in this newer version, they were just exploring it, and they decide to go exploring a little too far, and then they get trapped by this witch character. But I have to say the artwork is my favorite thing about this one shot. The artwork, the whole setup of the story, and the ending were like amazing. And then the reveal of the demon, I think it was this one right here, where he pops up in this panel. Like, that struck a nerve for me in a good way. But I feel like this artist has a lot of experience making comics and manga. Like, this is not their first time. I would be shocked if this was their first one. But I really enjoyed this. I could see it as a series, maybe if there were more world building elements to it. But it also works very well as a short story. What do you think, V?
So this was easily my favorite entry for Summer of Manga, and I think that all of the changes made to the original, even just changing the title, it's almost insidious. It's like masterfully crafted in a way, right? So the first thing we see is the main character. He's kind of like bloodied, hurt, right? And you immediately see Curse That Swallowed Kamamori. So you're kind of first under the impression that, like, that's who that character is. But the first twist happens, like, when you get there, that's not his name. That ends up being the name of the place that they find in ruin. As things develop, and I can't remember his name. It started with a...
It's like Yuchi or something like that? Yeah, Yuchi.
Yeah, the main character's friends, they get axed off, and he ends up fleeing the scene, and he comes face to face with sort of this kind of like almost eldritch horror, like cosmic horror eldritch entity that's underneath the village. And I don't know, like everything about this screams like misdirection. It seems like misdirection and kind of mystery was like a very large theme with this, because with finding out it's like, oh, well, the curse that swallowed Kamamori, it's actually the town. They're going to investigate it. It probably ends up being some mystery swallowed by the curse as well. And he's like perpetuating the cycle of victims through like a corrupt version of reincarnation. He just happens to like, lose all memory after it's happened, and just unknowingly is drawn back to that place. More people go missing, so on and so forth. I don't know, like this one just screams misdirection. Joe Tenket's set up as well for the storytelling. It's one of those stories where when you read it the first time, if you go back and you examine the small details, like everything kind of clicks, and I don't know, it goes full circle. I like it. I really think this one's narrative and everything is really solid. And I know some people kind of aren't a huge fan of really like scratchy looking manga, but I don't know. For me, I think the scratchiness really fits this tone. It adds grit, and it's not scratchiness done in a way that I think looks amateur. I feel like there was purpose behind it, and it enhances the moments where it's used, especially like on the big like massive eldritch creature. It's just phenomenal, solid. Easily my favorite entry for the first issue this year.
Agreed. What about you, Eddie?
That's like my main genre that I mess with. So when I saw this entry, I got really excited. Awesome story. It's well compacted into the time frame that they had, or like the page amount, and keeping it in a one-shot story. It gives that 21st century boys vibe, along with some Junjo Ito vibes. It's the perfect amount of horror. Like I'm just really happy with this entry. There are some little things that I think could have been done differently, but I'm not upset with it. Like it's just, if you have to find kind of criticism, like that kind of deal, because there's certain shots that just felt a little off. Characters are put to help narrate, like on panel. Where is this at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like on the bottom left, you have the character kind of giving some narration, and obviously that's the character that's right back there. But just like how they could have handled that could have been a little different. Just little things like that, little technical things. How they handled the gore was really awesome. I love the decapitation shot and how it like faded the back or the character out a little bit, and just let your imagination do the work. That's my favorite kind of like gore. I think the characters or the creatures are just awesome. Definitely fits within the theme that they were going for. And they just they touched on a lot of different ways for people to like get taken out, which is really cool. I'm not sure if they were hinting at this, but they don't really show that other friend who gets transformed actually like die. So I'm not sure if that was supposed to be a hint that he becomes another helper, kind of like this first one that shows up with the paper over his face. I'm not sure if he becomes another monster that just helps start taking victims.
Interesting.
But either way, it was just a really cool story. I'm happy with it. It was. I'm so happy they used black properly, because that's something that a lot of artists I see don't use properly. Like a lot is actually just filling in black. Like I love black. It should be used in manga to get that aesthetic, and especially if you're doing horror. So I'm very happy they used that.
Yeah.
I agree with the scratchy look being like purposely done. It just fit so well. And the last panel with the reveal was a great angle to use. So this is definitely a really good entry. I'm really happy with this one.
Yeah. It was hard for me to find things to critique with this one too. I mean, what do you think, Eric?
I don't have anything that I could say negative about it, because this short story is the one I was kind of waiting for the most since we reviewed the pitches a while ago. When I read the pitch live, I immediately thought, no, this is going to be good, and I'm happy that I was not disappointed. You can see how much the artist knows about manga and the kind of narrative that manga have. Vi was talking about Kisho Tenketsu, that is about the kind of narrative that it works on individual manga chapters as well as uh, one single volume that's basically set up, uh, how the story progress, the climax, and the resolution. Then you can see that this is used as well on this short story. I think this artist, I'm not sure, but I think this artist has participated on the contest Silent Manga Audition. That is a Japanese contest that opens up for all people from the world to participate in, and they have this. They hammer down this concept. So yeah, the art style works really well. He uses the turning pages, the horror, that is some techniques that Junji Ito uses as well. So yeah, I think this easily is one of my favorites of this issue.
Cool. Cool. And I will just add one last thing because I don't think any one of us really talked about it. The backgrounds are
Yeah,
so
yeah. I was
cool.
gonna mention that if no one else did. Not to, harp on other artists too much, but I noticed that usually with like web comics, like indie comics, when it comes to nature stuff specifically more than anything, I see a lot of prefabs, a lot of like tree brushes and stuff. Like he drew pretty much everything by hand, and I'm like a sucker for that. I love early Naruto's like hand drawn environments and backgrounds, like just the imperfections and like the way that it looks with the actual like texture from the ink instead of it being like a digital brush where it's very clean. Like I don't know, it's beautiful stuff. Like his environmental work is stunning, all
Yeah.
hand drawn, super beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. So that was The Curse That Swallowed Kamamori by Masaru Umino. And again, if you liked any of these one shots, guys, be sure to take that survey. We'll have another survey in our next issue. And again, we'll be doing another video covering the other group of Summer of Manga entries that we have for this year. This was only half of them. So stay tuned for our next video, folks. In the meantime, you can check out everything that we have going on with the company. We have a graphic novels coming out at the end of this year. We have, let's see, we have Saturday Annual coming out. We have Soul Beat. Oblivion Rouge just came out, so check out that one, as well as Henshin and Underground. But we have Titan King coming out, Apple Black Volume 4, Hammer Volume 4. So if you guys want to check out the manga that we create, you could do so on the website or on our app, Saturday Global Comics. And eventually, maybe some of these artists and writers that we've had in this issue today, you never know, they might end up working with us in the future, and you might see their manga here on the website. But on that note, let's go ahead and let's take it away to our panel of judges here. Do you guys have any last words or feedback for people watching?
well, um, I will say that all these entries that we reviewed for this issue of Summer of Manga, half of them, right? So we should expect even more interesting stories on next issue. So stay tuned for the next edition that come out. It's free to read, so go read it. Go give these artists your support.
All right. Thanks, Eric. Eddie.
Take care of yourselves, especially artists. Definitely keep checking out all the stuff. That's not a dig, I promise, Eric.
Damn the call out. Just at me.
No, but it does help. It does help. But definitely keep an eye out for all the stuff coming out. I'm excited to be a part of everything that's coming. I really hope you guys all enjoy. Make sure to pick up books at the local stores. I know I've been picking some up just because I like having hard copies as well. It does mean a lot for every artist. And be sure to communicate and talk with each other. This is a community. Art is a community in itself, but not just art. But at Saturday AM, if you're a fan of manga in general, talk to everybody else involved. Communication is key. Definitely keep checking out all the YouTube videos, and I hope you guys all enjoy what all is to come.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks everyone for coming. What about you, V? Any last words before we depart? That doesn't sound eerie at all.
As someone who just recently got off of the summer of manga train, right? I made it to the train stop. I definitely would 100% encourage, like, if you're thinking, if anyone like watching this video is thinking about getting into it, or doing what I did, going through a training arc to enter at a later date, like, you should go for it. The people at Saturday AM are very friendly. Like, the editor I got paired with was really, really fun to talk to. We basically just hung out during our editor meetings, and I don't know, the whole thing was a lot of fun, and it wasn't nearly as intimidating or as stressful as I had thought prior. I kind of knew it would be more lax going into it. It's not like Shonen Jump, breathing down your neck for a 16 chapter one shot in a week, but like, you shouldn't let it intimidate you. It's a very fun process. You get to meet very nice, very cool people, and I mean, hey man, like, at the end of the day, you get to have fun making a little comic to show everyone online and get published while doing it. So yeah, I would definitely say, if anyone's any doubts, like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not ready, like, just go for it, man. Like, have some fun. All of you guys have been a joy. I absolutely loved doing summer manga with you guys. Would recommend 100%.
Awesome. Well, it definitely sounds like a lot of fun, just for everyone being involved. But we hope that you guys enjoyed listening to our critique, our review, and be sure to catch us on the next video. But until then, we'll see you later. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Later.